Today, mining companies are generating more data than ever before. Are you embracing the power of this data to be better at mining? JUMP's Mine Analytics Playbook enables mining companies to harness this valuable data into actionable insight and focus on making the right, data-driven plays for a more efficient and cost-effective mining operation.
Excellent. Well, first, let me welcome everybody to our, this is our first Mining Center of Excellence series for 2022 with a focus on ESG. So I want to thank everybody for joining us today, whether it be your morning, your afternoon, or your evening, or it could be tomorrow, early morning, depending on where you are around the globe. I know we've had some interest from folks from all over the world to attend this event. So I'll just quickly introduce myself. I will get some introductions shortly, but I am Michael Matrick. I will be acting as sort of your host and your moderator for today. I'm one of the partners at JUMP Analytics and responsible and look after this group that's building out all this innovation in mining and technology. And we're really excited to have the chance to share with you a great story with our client New Gold and specifically Beth Barodi, who I'll introduce shortly. Just to kind of go through sort of the event program and what's happening today. So we've kicked off. I will get us through a couple of items there to get us going. And then I will turn it over to Beth, who will walk us through New Gold and what they're doing as it pertains to ESG and some of their challenges they've been facing and what they've been able to do to move forward to sort of right the ship forward to help them with some of their strategies on organization, collection, management, and reporting at the end. And then we're going to flip over and we're actually going to show you the ESG solution live. So we got a full demo. We're going to go through and demonstrate to you all things that we're doing and this application does as it pertains to ESG. And then as we get to the end of that, we're going to flip it over to a roundtable discussion. And I found this to be a really good track. When we did this last Mining Center of Excellence, we focused on mine reconciliation. And so we had quite the audience, and the discussions at the roundtable was quite impactful. So please, if you have questions, whether it be for Beth and what they're doing at New Gold and how they're dealing with ESG from that perspective, please ask the question. There will be the questions that you can put into the chat. Faze will be monitoring that and be able to prompt those questions if you don't want to speak, and we'll go from there. And then we'll get to the wrap up and then we'll talk about sort of our next event that we're planning for the fall. We're going to do this on a regular basis. The feedback that we're seeing from our clients is they want to see this every 6 months. There just seems to be a lot of attention in mining in the industry, especially around technology, innovation, and design. So we're really excited to be able to bring this together and share that with you and share those best practices. Just a few housekeeping things before we get started. So if you wouldn't mind just muting your microphone, please, that would be great. Turn off your video during the presentations if you're not presenting, or if you are presenting and you can't see, then you can turn off your video and do as you wish. The event is being recorded, so we will make this available to you afterwards. If you want to share it with others within your organization, please do, and we'll make that available for you. In Teams, they do have that option to raise your hand. So sometimes it's hard to see when we have a lot of people, and I can't see how many people are here. So, but hopefully we'll be able to catch that. But I highly advise you to use the QA forum. It's a great opportunity to pose your question and just we can reach out to you and have you ask or clarifying things a bit more. Okay, so with that, just a bit of an introduction. So I introduced myself, so I'll skip over myself, but we have Jeff Armstrong, who is our Director of Strategic Industries. He's going to be in charge of what's called the halftime show, as he's described it to us earlier. And then Jack, who is one of our consultants, will be showing and running through the demo of the ESG. And then Faze, who's here, who you've probably received a lot of communication from regarding this event, will be tracking all the activity behind the scenes and making sure that we're focused on everything else. Now, as we know in mining, and the fact that we are talking about ESG, safety is an extremely important thing. And we like to start every meeting that we have with our clients in industry with a safety moment. So I just want to be brief on this one, but we are heading into a long weekend. So I'm just going to advise people to be cautious, be careful, driving, getting onto ferries, onto airplanes, visiting family, be safe, follow the right protocols, be mindful of your children, your kids, uncles, or cousins, and things that are going to be running around this weekend looking for Easter egg hunts and finding all the treasures that will be in parks, schoolyards, and even around your house and neighborhoods. So just be mindful of that. Be cautious with everything you do, whether you're driving, you're biking, or you're walking. So and just I'll wish everybody which to come is an Easter weekend, and wishing you and your family all the best this weekend. Okay, so some of you may not know who Jump Analytics is, what we do, where we are, and these sorts of things. So I just want to spend just a few minutes kind of describing to you who we are and what we're doing. So as the slide indicates here, we are a global mining solutions group. We're very fortunate to be working with mining companies in Australia, South America, Asia, North America, Europe, and Africa, and really looking at ways that we can bring in our expertise in understanding mining industry and aligning it with technology to make sure that we can make the process of mining and the data collection of key mining components within the mine site more efficient and more impactful to the mine operations. So we've spent many years in designing and building out our playbook, and Jeff's going to go into this in a bit more detail and describe to you some of the things we've been doing in the mining. And I must say, I'm really impressed with how the mining industry is really adopting technology today and really taking it forward. And I think it's a pivot time where, you know, we can't just rely on manual processes anymore and Excel spreadsheets and, non-integrated capabilities across a mine operation. And we saw that as an opportunity to come in partnership with Microsoft to start to use and build out these capabilities and technologies using common tools like Microsoft and its set of capabilities to make sure these technologies can be used and utilized effectively. And you're going to see a lot of that with the ESG app. And I'll just kind of basically describe to you our journey with ESG as we kind of look at this, as this is the focus for today. And ESG is really one of our plays in our playbook. And again, Jeff will go into that into a bit more detail during his halftime show. But our journey with ESG started a number of years ago, where we started, working with our clients and understanding how they were, sorting and collecting and managing all these multiple frameworks that were coming into the industry. And there's so many, and there's hundreds and thousands of metrics that companies are now responsible to start tracking and coordinating and aligning, and they're getting pressure from the industry, whether it be from the regulators, from community groups, whether it be from investors and shareholders, just from the executive leadership team in general, and getting a view and a lens into ESG, and ESG is a very broad topic, as we know, and there's so many different components of this that there's got to be a better way to be able to manage all those metrics that you collect at all your mine sites by your stakeholders, and being able to share that and roll it up to corporate so you can have that visibility into view metrics and what they mean to your business, and you're tracking them efficiently. And the other thing about our business that's interesting that I didn't mention is, we do have a very large financial component of what we do from a consulting perspective. So we're very well aware of how the large accounting firms, the audit firms, are really starting to put pressure on organizations to build more rigor around the collection, the management of ESG. So we saw it as an opportunity. And I think, what you'll hear from our story with New Gold, and when we partner with New Gold on this strategy, is that, there was a point where New Gold was a client of ours, and we had been doing a lot of work with them across their mine sites, both at New Afton and Rainy River, as well as a corporate. And there was an opportunity to really kind of double down and invest in and extend our playbook to provide this ESG capability by using some of the tools we've already designed that are in production and being used at the mine site. So that's how it all started. And I'm not going to steal any thunder from what Beth is going to talk about, because she's going to describe their journey and how we started and where we went to and where we are today. And we still have work to do. It's not over yet. Let me be very clear about that. We still have things we want to do, but we're getting better, and you're going to see the highlights of all that development work and what's happening and where we're taking this system and the solution moving forward. So just wanted to set the stage for that, but I'm going to move into, I think, which is the most powerful part of our presentation, which is introducing our guest speaker, Beth Barodi. And we're very honored to have her join us on this journey and being available to present and share, New Gold's journey with you today. Just some notes on Beth. I'm just going to read this off of a sheet I have here, but Beth has worked extensively in the sub-Saharan Africa and Canada, and she brings a unique global worldview to her work. And her experience in working with government, private sector, and nonprofits, Beth is able to connect the dots to develop creative solutions to the most pressing ESG issues that are facing the industry today. So I couldn't ask for a better speaker. She believes in creating and implementing positive change involving sustainability on both an environmental and social context. She has actively worked with the Indigenous partners to promote economic inclusion, more diverse supply chains, and to address challenges related to climate action, water management, and reclamation, which is all very important to the industry. These experiences have led to an in-depth understanding of the holistic planetary impact on and from industry in critical decision making. And on one final note before I introduce Beth and turn this over to her, is Beth does not shy away from complex and challenging problems that she faces and the industry is facing as a whole. But instead, she approaches them with a people-centric mindset, followed by data-driven design solutions, which, funny enough, we're going to see a little bit of that today. She offers a fresh and new and innovative voice in the mining industry and is committed to propelling this industry into the future. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing on my side here, and I'm going to turn over to you, Beth, and the floor is yours. Thank you, and wish you the best during your presentation.
Thank you, Michael. And thank you to everyone who has joined us today. I'm really excited to be able to join the JUMP team and speak more about our experience that we've had with JUMP over the last 12 months as we've had our own ESG data journey, but also just with the industry and where the industry is moving on the ESG front. So I always enjoy teams where I come up, I can only see myself in the little box on the bottom, but please, if you have any questions or anything at any time, feel free to raise your hand, or Faze, feel free to interrupt me at any time.
Yeah.
So New Gold is an intermediate gold mining company. So we primarily mine gold and copper. And we currently have 2 operating assets, one in BC, just outside Kamloops, and one in northwestern Ontario in the Rainy River District. The company over the last 7 years has gone through quite a big change. For those of you who knew New Gold back 7 to 10 years ago, the company was much larger, it was much more international, and went through quite a transition and downsizing over the last few years. But within that, New Gold has always been seen in the industry as being a leader in the CSR, sustainability, and now what we're calling ESG fields. Right from my predecessors to the people who began the company, sustainability was always a piece that was really integrated as being business critical into the company. And as we have continued to see the rapidly changing ESG environment over the last 2 years, we continue every year to strive for stronger and more transparent reporting methods, looking at how our data is being collected, looking at data integrity, and looking at the ESG topics that matter most to us as a company. So to talk a little bit about our journey with reporting, which won't be a lot different than other mining companies, but we have been doing sustainability reporting for about a decade. But sustainability reporting or your CSR reporting was always seen as voluntary. You know, it was a nice thing for companies to do. It was a nice way to kind of put a good spotlight on some of the work that you were doing, particularly around the environment side. And so we would take an approach of environmental regulation, looking at what we were required to do for permitting, what the expectation from government was, and we heavily kind of focused and invested on that. We started seeing frameworks start to develop that was starting to align data that companies were tracking across the industry, but we continued to minimize the social impacts and the governance structures. And I think the social impacts we really minimized because it was far less quantitative. It was much more qualitative on what we could track, or even what was seen as what was important. And so although there was a heavy focus on regulation and environmental impacts, the industry was still kind of lagging on its understanding of what the social impacts were from mining as a whole, and particularly here in Canada. So it was seen as nice to have. Companies all had these like beautiful pictures and displays of smiling people that would come out every year, but were they really doing anything? Were they really showing what companies were doing to try and better their practices, trying to make a more sustainable practice when it comes to mining? Was it encompassing voices of stakeholders, or was it more or less being used as just PR at that point? So as again, you can see over the last 3 years, if you have been involved in this industry or the ESG sector in general, whether you're government, nonprofit, private sector, it has rapidly changed. We started seeing the pressure points change for what the expectations were. It was no longer just let's put out some great stories so that we have some positivity around our reputation and what we're doing. And it really came from investors and from government to say, no, you need to do better. And we're now going to put your credit against that. We're now going to make our investment decisions around whether or not we believe you are kind of putting your money where your mouth is and actually looking at things from an environment, social, and governance aspect. And so at New Gold, we had initially, reported against the GRI, the Global Reporting Initiative, and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. We had done that for a few years, but we again didn't really have a direction for why we were reporting data or what data was important to us, but more importantly, what data was actually important for our external stakeholders. New Gold in itself, here in Canada, we are, I believe we in all Canadian companies operating in Canada, we have more Indigenous partners than any other company. So obviously the information that we are putting out and the topics that we are deeming as material to us need to also very much be deemed as being material to Indigenous partners who have partnered with us and allowed us to work on their land. So over the last 2.5 years, we took a pause with our reporting. We kind of went down to the bare bones of what's required of us so that people see that we're doing something, but what do we really want to achieve with our reporting, and who is our reporting actually for? And so over the last 2 years of our reporting cycle, we've added in the SASB framework and the TCFD. So SASB is, again, the Sustainable Accounting Standards Board framework, and the Task Force for Climate-Related Financial Disclosures, the TCFD, as well as adding in a Canadian-made and Canadian-owned, the LPRM, which is the Local Procurement Reporting Mechanism. And it was really important for us to bring in these other frameworks because we didn't find that the GRI spoke to Indigenous rights. We didn't find that there was a strong enough piece on what our procurement practices were. We didn't find that there was enough on climate and water issues that the TCFD was able to provide. And we didn't feel like there was enough on the diversity factor around governance, around what diversity, equity, and inclusion actually looks like from a governance perspective. So we took these frameworks that we felt we're kind of the best of what we had right now, still recognizing, if you're part of the conversations more globally, there is still a massive lack on the Indigenous rights being brought into ESG reporting. And so we continue to work with different groups to figure out how to best pull that in to continue on our reporting journey. And then as we were developing, what's our story, what matters to us, what do we want to speak about, and how do we move past just reporting on what's regulatory requirements and actually show here's what we're doing, but here's where we're going on the environment, social, and governance fronts. We're now seeing that our reporting is becoming much more mandatory. And once it becomes mandatory in the industry, we all know what that means. It's scrutinized, it's looked at in far more detail. The data integrity, data collection is far more important. We were tracking everything on Excel spreadsheets through our SharePoint using the Microsoft platform. And you can imagine the nightmares that that was causing for people, for what reporting, used to be done by a couple people kind of on the side of the desk, kind of to get it done, has now become one person's full-time job in the company to look at and make sure that we're collecting data properly, that things are going in the right place. The amount of times people were looking at different versions of spreadsheets or accidentally saved over something or whatever it may be, it was just a bit of a nightmare for us. And now that we know that this reporting is going to become more mandatory, and we know that where stakeholders, investors are really looking for are those big ticket items. That is, what are we doing about climate action? How are we integrating DE&I into everything that we do? And how are we moving it past just gender? We tend to get stuck on just male-female ratios or looking at Indigenous employment, but how do we look at that from an intersectionality point of view? How do we make sure that we're looking at different abilities, different ethnicities? How do we bring race into this? Looking at sexuality and sexual orientation, and actually really making the DE&I portfolios within mining actually true and transparent, because that is the future of work and the future of our workforces, is to create those safe and inclusive spaces. Health, safety, and wellness, as Michael started off our session with a safety share, it's one of the biggest things every mining company will speak about, because safety and getting everyone home safe every single day is the utmost priority. And then again, really understanding Indigenous rights and inclusion. And I would say this piece, we as a mining industry continue to need help with, because we do continue to be, particularly here in Canada, predominantly more white, predominantly non-Indigenous. And so we need to be finding ways to bring and include Indigenous voices into our decision making, into our business, into our economic decisions, far more robustly than what we have now. And as we do that, we need to be able to report on that in a very transparent way, and a way that really has our data validated and that data integrity top of mind. So this is where we ran into JUMP. So Michael had shared that the JUMP Analytics team has been working with New Gold for a few years now, primarily with our site-based teams, looking at some of our database and data tracking from a site perspective. And just over a year ago now, we had just released our 2020 reporting. So we did our sustainability report, and New Gold launched our 2030 sustainability strategy. And my team and I, we were kind of pulling out our hair after finishing that reporting season for all of the reasons I just shared around how we were actually collecting data and tracking data. And we thought there has to be a better solution out here. People have got to be doing this in a better way than we are, that's not just tracking Excel spreadsheets. And so we started doing some work and some research. And we're a small company. We obviously have constraints around resources. We had to be a bit nimble, and we had found some out-of-the-box solutions. And I had brought them to our IT team, and I said, listen, here's these groups. They can help us with our reporting. They're going to help us keep all of our data in one area. All of these frameworks that continue coming out, we can just integrate them really easily. And our director of IT was very frank with me, and he pretty much said, listen, we don't need to manage another software. We have a group that we already work with that works with all of our backend, that works with the full Microsoft suite, and you need to talk to them and see what they can do. And to be quite honest, I was a little skeptical. I kind of had this idea that I had this other group in my head that we were going to use, and they were going to solve all of our reporting needs, but had the conversation with Michael and Jack and Jeff at the time, with my team as well. And we started talking about what our needs were and where we wanted to go with reporting, and how we didn't want our reporting to just be a once-a-year thing, but we wanted to build a dashboard and a platform where our sites could input data, that it was tracked, it was validated, and that we could pull that data at any time, or we could pull cross sections of data so that we could look at different things from different perspectives, if it came from climate or if it came from a DE&I perspective, and then put that data together to tell a bigger story. And as we were talking, I just was getting a lot of nods, and we were sharing what we needed. There was just nods and nods from the JUMP team. And at the end of the call, they said, yeah, we'll be able to do this. No problem. This is what we do. And we also believe that this is the direction that the industry is going. And so we started our journey and we started looking at where our data was coming from. I still to this day feel bad for the JUMP team for some of the the chaos of our data collection to date that was happening. But being able to clean that up and build our dashboard, we knew that we had to have something ready to go by Q4 last year, because we'd be rolling out this year's reporting for our 2021 reports early in 2022. And they delivered far and beyond what we expected. The ease of the platform that they were able to build, working with our teams and our sites directly, working with our material topics, looking from multiple different lenses on how to make sure that we're making great data to be able to tell our story, but not just to tell our story in the way of look how great we are, but also to say, hey, here's the data that shows we didn't actually achieve what we wanted to this year. But now that we have the data, we can speak to why, and we can speak to what we're going to do about it next year or the years to come. And so it really has provided us an ease of reporting. We are in the final stages right now of our 2021 sustainability report and our first TCFD report that will be coming out in about a month from now. And I can say with 100% confidence, the data collection and reviewing this year has been worlds better than what we have had in the past with our previous sheets. And so we look forward to continuing to work with JUMP. We think as the ESG continues to evolve and more of these topics do become really priority topics, and the breadth of what is covered, the breadth and the depth of what is covered in ESG reporting continues to grow. We want to make sure that we really have the strong infrastructure to support us, to make sure that as we grow and as our reporting grows and as we bring in new metrics, that it's easily plugged into what we already have, so that when we are getting audited, when we do look at tying our sustainability data in with our financials, that it all seamlessly speaks together, and it's not just a pretty report anymore that sits there, although I do believe our reports are quite beautiful. But we are making sure that we're putting the right data for the right metrics for things that our stakeholders really care about forward. And the only way we've been able to do that this year is by partnering with JUMP and looking at the JUMP team. So that's the presentation that I have. So I'll leave that there and stop sharing my screen and just speak a little bit more to the industry in itself, because the industry, I think, we are moving really quickly, and there's a lot of expectations from those pressure points, particularly around investors, particularly around financial institutions. And sometimes we move too quick because we need to get things done. We need to get a project started. We need to get financing. And we haven't done the groundwork of what does that mean from a reporting and data tracking point, but even just from the social aspects of what does that mean for a company when a company is going and doing additional projects, or what does that mean for our workforces, or what does that mean for how our climate plans are going to be impacted if a company grows, or if a company merges, or things like that. And so I think we're seeing overall the ESG realm and world is just becoming one of the most important parts of business. And you no longer have conversations about growth or about investment or about a new project without considering what those ESG factors are. And so we need to make sure, as the department that oversees that we continue to provide the data, and we provide clean data, and we're tracking that data consistently, so that at any point and any time we can be pulling it, looking at where we're at, looking at where we need to go, and just have that baseline under us, which is really important. So I will stop there for right now, and I think I'm handing it over to Jeff, I believe, for Jeff to start kind of showing us the magic of what the JUMP team has, and start walking us through what they've developed.
Thank you, Beth, for your presentation. Hi, everyone. I'm Jeff Armstrong, the Director of Strategic Industries here at JUMP Analytics, and I guess I'll be your halftime show between Beth's presentation and Jack's demo of the ESG app coming up. Okay, so what I want to show everyone here is how the ESG app fits in our overall mining solution, which is the JUMP Mine Analytics Playbook. What we have is an assortment of plays for various disciplines within the mining process, from reserves and resources to daily operations and, of course, safety and sustainability. These plays, which are powered by Microsoft Power BI, provide the necessary analytics for your daily decision making and securely tied into your Active Directory for easy governance and security. In addition to the plays in our Mine Analytics playbook, we offer applications to support gaps in your data. Whether it's by providing a home for budgets and forecasts, an app to replace Excel, and yes, everyone wants to and should replace Excel for data collection, or an app to fill in for a missing OT system, such as an equipment availability tracker, exploration drill program app, or of course, ESG. But maybe you're also having trouble managing follow-up activities after an operational meeting. Well, we have that covered in an app as well. Our collection of apps is continuously growing for a multitude of use cases. For example, our Core Vision app utilizes machine learning to detect the lithology type of core samples sitting in their core boxes. It also doubles as a core log photo organizer, where you can take a photo of the core with your phone and send it away for lithology prediction and archiving in one shot. Another app currently under construction in our labs will utilize machine learning to predict the optimal ore blend to feed the plant based on historical mill performance and existing stockpile ore characteristics. And of course, replace Excel today with our Game app. Game will happily provide your data with a safe and secure place to live, freeing it from duplication and possible data loss with Excel. And as mentioned earlier, our apps will allow you to apply and track actionable tasks and plans to individual metrics for follow-up in next week's or next month's operational meeting. And will also let you assign those tasks to an individual for accountability. Continuous improvement projects, of course, yes, we've got you covered there with another app. And now I'd like to show a glimpse of what's to come with our ESG app. And at the bottom, I've blurred out the image of the app below so as not to spoil Jack's presentation coming up. But before we get to that, I bet you're already storing some of your disclosures in SAP as part of normal operating procedures, or fuel consumption and material movement in your fleet management system, safety and CSR events in yet another system, or maybe you've adopted Jump Analytics' Game app to track some of those loose or floating KPIs that don't have a home system. Well, coming soon, we'll be automating the extracts of your disclosures from these systems so you can monitor them on a monthly cadence, easing the year-end collection of said metrics. And now, Jack, what everybody's waiting for, I'll hand it over to you for the demo.
Thanks for that, Jeff. So like you said, my name's Jack. I'm a consultant here at Jump, and I started in environmental science, but so far in my career in data, I've noticed one major thing. Data collection really is an ever-evolving world, and ESG is the fastest growing. With a revised set of metrics coming yearly, each with their own ever-evolving definitions, the abilities for companies to accurately and reliably disclose these metrics to illustrate to shareholders and their peers that they take their commitments to ESG seriously, well, it's a monstrous task. Jump Analytics developed ESG app with this in mind. As experts in data collection and analytics, we understand the difficulties that come with company-wide data collection. And we understand how to empower companies to better leverage their data for everyday decision making. Built on the Microsoft Power Platform, companies don't have to worry about version control or an accidental deletion of an entire year's worth of work from an Excel sheet. Admins don't have to worry about filtering through a semi-structured Excel sheet to find a blank metric and then separately track down the individuals responsible to fill that out. And companies who previously operated off of once-a-year reporting can move into a monthly cadence. This enables them to make more confident, data-driven decisions based off their ESG disclosures on a regular basis. So let me talk you through a bit of what our solution offers in ESG app. In the home page, users are greeted to a high-level view of the company's entire ESG collection. This can be filtered by site and by current and historical year-month reporting periods. Monthly reporting not only allows companies to go beyond their annual reporting, but also allows for increased oversight in the data. The governance can help to ensure accuracy and decrease the amount of time it takes to validate data for internal and external audits. Within these panels, those of you that are familiar with ESG will notice some GRI categories, social, environmental, but ESG app disclosures can be custom based off of your organization's reporting needs. It'll be built into the framework so that those custom frameworks can be easily captured and organized along with those out-of-the-box ESG disclosures. So when I click into social here, it takes us to this next page. This is where we'll be seeing a month-to-month completion, which we can filter again by current, previous years, and by site. We can select our major social category and view the subcategories within it on a month-to-month completion basis. Now, to help organize and ensure data access and security, ESG app assigns editors to metrics, and editors are assigned at this sub-major category level. As an example, this means that at our San Fresa mines, in labor and management relations, we can review the editors at a glance. There are 2 editors assigned to it, and listed here are the only ones that will be able to edit this within the app outside of the admin group. And at the click of a button, I can send them an email to say, maybe you're running a bit behind on your disclosures, or send them a note on how it's currently going. The next level of hierarchy is represented here in the frameworks, where we can see at a glance each framework and its associated response in each period for every single submetric. Now, another note for those of you familiar with ESG and GRI and SASB, many of them do have overlapping frameworks. And here we see an example where MM4 is a GRI and then we have a SASB disclosure below it. Instead of having to enter these twice and have a lot of duplicate work, the framework's actually able to integrate these and ensure that it's only going to be entered once, but the information will show for both of those metrics. But at any point, as an admin or as a user, they can navigate within this page to the edit screen. This edit screen is the final page within the ESG app, and it's where users come to edit disclosures. By selecting the correct year, the correct month, and the correct site, users can cycle through their major and sub-major categories and modify disclosures as they see fit. At the click of a button, it'll be updated. All previous and changed entries are tracked within the database. Now, this once again ensures that there's data clarity and data entry and best practices will be improved as they're moving away from end of year reporting and into that monthly cadence where more and more feedback is needed to ensure that those 12 months of reporting are going well. But to better illustrate these functions I've discussed, let me walk you through a typical use case of ESG app. In this scenario, I'm the admin of our company. This is the sand mining company. And I'm getting ready to go over our 2021 disclosures ahead of the upcoming reporting deadline. I ensure that I'm in the correct year and month, and I can cycle through the sites. At a glance, I'm able to check my major category completion. Here we can see socials nearing complete, our general disclosures are nearing complete, economic is nearing complete, but I see that the mining framework division seems to be lacking behind. So I'll click into this custom framework. And yep, it looks like I'm correct. They haven't filled out a single thing for this year yet. I'm sure we've all run into this. And instead of having to track down the editors, I can navigate to this page in the left or in the right here. You can see there are 3 editors assigned and their emails are listed here. Instead of having to track them down, I can just click this email button and after I enter some simple information to tell them, please get those disclosures done, send it out. That's taken care of. But while we're in this view, I do remember for San Fresa, one of our other sites, there was a pretty serious non-compliance within water and effluents. And I just want to make sure our division is tracked. So I'll make sure to select the correct major category, the subcategory. And in reviewing the editor, I realized they're probably not with this division anymore. So just to make sure, I can go down and look for our SASB disclosure, the number of incidents of non-compliance, and go down to my month of interest here. By going down to July, I can see that they've entered none, but I also want to edit this editor. So as an admin, I'm going to navigate back to the app screen here. And user admins have a feature just for them here called the user admin screen. By selecting the correct site, I can then filter by our user. Here I can see all of the permissions which are assigned to that user. And I remember I wanted to delete their access to water and effluents. I'll go click this delete button. Their access will be automatically updated within the app and within the dashboard. But while we're here, I want to add one of our new editors to this section. So I can select water and effluents and look them up. With Jason added to the water and effluents division, again, it'll be automatically updated within the dashboard and his permissions. But let's look to see what it looks like from his point of view. Here, we're once again in that same edit screen, but Jason's not an admin, so there won't be any of that user admin selection. As Jason, I'm going to be going to the correct year, the correct month, and the correct site. But because Jason's only permissions are set up to San Fresa, he won't be able to select a site out of this. This is a step to ensure that users aren't accidentally going into sites and writing over entries from previous departments. While it is tracked, I think we can all agree it's best to stay within the correct site. And when I go to navigate through my major categories, you can see they're strictly limited to what this user is allowed to edit: biodiversity and the one he was just added to, water and effluents. I'll click into water and effluents. I'll confirm that I'm in 2021 of July and go to the issues of non-compliance. Here you can see the previous entry, none. I'm just going to update this to what I want it to say as Jason. Stick it in here, there. Click update. It'll immediately update within the database and the dashboard, but just to ensure that it's there, let me go back to the category overview. Let's ensure that we're in the correct site, San Fresa, the correct reporting year, and within the water and effluents area. We can see here, I'm the only, me, Jason, is the only editor within this category. And when I scroll down to view the number of incidents of non-compliance, we can see the previous ones, as well as the one I've just updated for July, recording the incidents of non-compliance. Now, this instantaneous workflow between user and admin allows departments to work together seamlessly. It creates consistent and meaningful ESG metrics on a regular basis. And that organization of metrics and the communication between admins and users makes it so that month-to-month reporting isn't such a headache. And it almost makes it as easy it would have been to track it annually. It just enables companies to do so. And now I'll pass it back over to Michael so he can discuss and take any questions from you guys.
Yeah, thank you, Jack. That was great. You hear me okay? Good. Okay. Well, that was a great demo, and more importantly, Beth, your presentation was fantastic, and thank you again for that. That was very insightful about New Gold's journey and the challenges that you're faced, and how, you know, together we've been able to resolve and solve some of those problems. And we still have some work to do, and we have some things to do, which is exciting. We're looking forward to that journey. So, you know, at this stage, what I wanted to do is basically open the floor. This is, you know, one of the great thing about these events, and I did see a couple questions sort of come up somewhere. Somebody put their hand up. I can't remember who it was. But this is a great opportunity to be able to ask any of the presenters a question about what you've heard, what you're thinking, and even talk about some of the industry challenges that are going on maybe within your organization that you'd like to talk about. So why don't I open up the floor and see if there's any questions. And FaZe, maybe you could help with kind of just coordinating some of the questions that are coming in. Somebody did put their hand up. I saw a hand go up. I don't remember who that was.
We saw Giorgio's hand go up. Giorgio had a question. Go ahead.
Giorgio, are you there, Giorgio?
Yes, I'm here. Yes, hi guys.
Hey, Giorgio, how are you?
Very well, thanks. I had the hand raised, but I got the answers because I was not sure how the information was going to be presented, and it's very clear now that we saw the demonstration. So I'm happy here, Michael.
Okay, excellent. I'm glad we were able to answer your question throughout the presentation. I see Beth's hands up. So Beth, over to you.
Thank you. I just wanted to make an additional comment with going through. So seeing the app, I mean, no surprise, it's going to be a wonderful tool, and it's going to provide an enormous amount of support and help for our reporting. And I think one of the really big benefits with ESG reporting right now, because there is so much pressure on it, and because there is so much attention from management and from board levels, you have a lot of people trying to decipher what a lot of information means who may not be experts in that area. So you've had your sustainability professionals who have kind of been holding down the fort for the last few years and kind of providing information as needed. But now you're getting a lot of interest from those upper managements and from those board levels. And so being able to synthesize the information and pull information in those snapshots is extremely helpful, particularly when it comes to companies' material topics, not just within the frameworks, but again, actually looking at how you customize it for your company, for your specific metrics that you need. So I think the fact that you've not only built a tool that has, you know, some of the biggest frameworks that the industry is using right now, but also has the ability to customize very easily, where it's very seamless into the process. Your teams aren't seeing it as extra work. It's just seamless integration of those additional metrics, and then being able to pull that information so that everyone from, you know, a day laborer all the way up to your board members is able to digest and process that information in the way that you want them to see it. And I think that's a huge difference right now, where it's kind of the less technical side of mining, and people aren't as comfortable with that. And so giving them tools and ways to get comfortable with that very quickly is going to be really important over the next couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a great point. Any other questions from any of the other participants? Have we answered all of your questions? You've seen everything. You're like, okay, this is great. There's got to be some questions out there.
Please make sure you unmute your microphones and ask the questions. Thanks.
Yeah. Giorgio's got his hand up. He has a question.
Yeah, sorry, again, me again. No, it's really for Bethany in terms of, because she said in the beginning that she wanted more involvement of the people in the actual variables involved in ESG. Having this type of integrated reporting, did it bring results in terms of changing those attitudes and making people think more about what has to be done in terms of ESG internally in the company?
Yes, absolutely. And that's a great question. I think, this is the whole case for data, right? Is that without that data, or without that consistency of data, or kind of the volume of data that we started collecting, it was a lot of, I don't want to say hearsay, maybe the wrong word, but it was a lot of us trying to say, hey, these are important matters. These are what our stakeholders are telling us. But we didn't have a lot of that information to back it up or be able to track. And so even when we were building out this our own JUMP dashboard for our ESG reporting in this past year, we have all of the frameworks that get filled in, and we can pull information on that. But we actually built in places that was just for qualitative data, just for what do relationships feel like, what are the challenges that we've had, what are stories and successes that we've had. And once we were able to start tracking that over the last 8 months more consistently, we can share that data. And so not only has internally the understanding around our ESG data increased, but we've also been able to share that data externally with our external stakeholders, who also, again, they need to also be partners with us in determining what's material for us and how we operate. And so now that we have the database and it's all in one place, and we're not trying to search for, Excel story here or newsletter over here had this in it or whatever it may be, it's all in one spot. It's now given people kind of the ease of being able to digest that information and understand why it's so relevant and important to us now.
Excellent. Great question, Giorgio. Thank you for that, and great answer, Beth. That's good. Any other questions from anybody else? Okay. Well, you know what, if there are no questions, and if there are that pop up as we're kind of getting to the final close here. Oh, there is a question. Cornelio, I'll let you come off mute if you like, and you can ask your question.
Yep. Hello, everyone, and thanks for sharing this excellent experience. Thanks, Bethany. A question for you, Bethany, and maybe for analytics. Could you mention the key challenges faced during the deployment process? So how your team on the field, for example, how they deal with these challenges, and also the task is already completed during this first year, as I assume, or is an ongoing process? Thank you, Bethany.
Thank you, Cornelio. Just for clarity, are you looking for the challenges they face with this data collection, or with some of the metrics that we had determined?
Oh, yeah, no, thanks. For deployment the data collection.
For the data collection, yes. So I mean, anytime
moving from Excel to a new system.
Yes. Anytime you introduce a new process or a system, there are going to be challenges. And people, it's hard sometimes to get people to move into a new way of doing things. I think, as Michael touched on before, we did have some of our ESG data was in other databases that we had, was in SAP, was in INX, different things like that. And so inputting data was not new. It was just where and when and how data was going to be implemented. And so we knew that for our site teams, that was going to be a bit of a challenge, and a challenge more or less from time and capacity for introducing and learning a new platform, getting information in. And so we actually worked very closely with Jack and Jeff and our site teams to really bring them in right from the beginning of the design. We knew from a corporate perspective, yes, obviously we need this information, but it was more important that our sites felt comfortable with it and that the sites felt like it was going to ease their workloads as opposed to add more work to it. So we had them involved right through the design. They did all of the beta testing, they did the pilot testing, they provided the feedback, and now we've done our complete first reporting cycle with it. And we have a meeting set up in a few weeks with the JUMP team and our sites to again dive into what went well and what can we improve for next year. But I think the benefit is that the frameworks we were using were not new to our sites. So the GRI and SASB we had done previously, so they knew what the requirements were. And the fact that it was all just in one spot and they were only looking at the data sets that were relevant to them as opposed to full Excel sheets with hundreds of indicators on it, it actually took that stress and eased up on them a little bit for what their workload was. So although it was a little challenging to get people into the rhythm of moving into using the JUMP dashboard, people quickly realized the benefit of it and just what a cleaner experience it was at that point.
Good question, Cornelio. Thank you. I think we have another question from Lana. Is that correct, Lana? Do you want to come off mute?
Good morning. Yes, great presentation. Nice to see you again, Bethany.
Hi, Lana.
Hi. I just have a question because I realized that the presentation today was on mines that have operations, and I was part of New Gold back in the early days you mentioned, and New Gold has always, in my view, been a trendsetter. So I'm hoping that this is another way that you can establish a new trend in the mining industry. But for junior companies, and Michael, this question is more to you, trying to report on ESG, how can this be, or can this be utilized for a junior company, which may not have a mine operation, which may have the extent of their gas emissions, trucks driving across the property, that kind of thing. Is there a way to make this more compatible to a junior exploration company?
Yes, that's a great question, Lana. Yes, the answer to that is it is, and it can be. We are having some discussions with some other junior mining companies that are looking at it because they're just not operational at this point. But they do know that they need to set a baseline and a framework to start the collection and the organization of these metrics for ESG. So our philosophy is we can go as small and start at the small end, which is at the junior end and the exploration side, all the way through up into a full operational mine. So hopefully that'll answer your question. And if you want, we could have an online discussion about that and describe how we would do that and what it would look like. But the answer to the question is absolutely we can.
Okay, I'll send you an email at some point.
Okay.
Can I add on to that really quickly, Michael?
Yeah, sure.
Because Lana, it's great to see you. I assumed that was you who had joined on when I saw Lana coming in, so it's great to have you involved. I think where the juniors can really benefit from this is where we have had to kind of clean up the mess of figuring it out, where they can start with a really strong system in place. And I think the metrics may be different. Perhaps a junior doesn't have to be reporting as extensively against GRI or SASB or TCFD because the information isn't there. But particularly when it comes to the social aspects and when it comes to consultation, when it comes to rights holders, when it comes to land issues, things like that, I think that's where this type of platform could truly kind of revolutionize how we speak about what that data looks like for junior companies, and should be where companies are starting from now, as opposed to, oh, now we have to do all of this reporting and now we have to kind of do all the back work to try and figure out what we have, what we don't have, and find the solution. I think it's just a matter of the metrics being different, but the actual platform being incredibly helpful, no matter whether you're at exploration, whether you're project stage, production, closure, whatever it may be. This platform, that's the beauty of it, is that it can be so customizable to what your needs are.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you both.
Thank you. Great question. Appreciate it. Maybe as people are thinking about maybe some other questions, just looking around, I don't see any other hands raised. Faze, anything in the chat? You don't see anything in there?
There is nothing in the chat, no.
Okay, all right. Well, I like it. People are raising their hand. I think that's a good way to do it. So with that, I mean, I love giving people back time in the day because everyone is super busy. And I know we always allocate sort of 90 minutes for these presentations and sometimes a little longer, but if we finish early, that's great. That means we're very efficient on our content delivery and the speakers did a good job. So, just to sort of close out and get us to that point of the presentation, I want to thank Beth again for your contribution and commitment to being a part of this. And also, I think, to your role and responsibilities in being an ESG leader in the industry. I think, your voice is so powerful. It means so much to the industry. So really want to thank you for that. and thank the team from Jump to put the presentation together and be a part of this. And for those who have joined us, thank you for taking time out of your day. I know it's a short week. I didn't realize when we did this. Oh, it's Good Friday. Shoot, people might be busy. So we'll get smarter for the next one. But I was happy with the attendance and the questions, and we will be sending a survey out to people. We would like to get your feedback, not only just on this event, but things that we want to cover in the future, because we will be looking at different segments of mining and the mine site, and looking at ways of introducing new innovation. We're doing some really cool projects, around ore blending and stockpile, and advanced analytics on those areas that we can start surfacing as topics. One of the ones we're doing is a mill shutdown, which is a really cool one. So that might surface at some point. But yeah, we'll keep you interested and love to get your feedback again. We will be giving away some gift cards to the surveys, of course, probably to the top 5 we pull out of a hat, and we'll be sending those out to you. There'll be virtual gift cards so you could use on your phone and use in the store if you're getting a coffee or whatever it happens to be. But I just want to thank everybody. And again, in ending, please have a wonderful Easter weekend. Be safe, be healthy, be happy.